Hi guys, welcome back. Great to see you all again. This is part 2 of the little mini Hoover series, and I hope you enjoy it and I hope you get something out of it. Okay, so this video is going to entirely cover the purpose of the Narcissists Hoover. So I've written down a good few points, so I'm just going to get straight into it. Okay, so the main reason that the Narcissist Hoovers, in my opinion, is to re-regulate themselves. They have cycles going on all over the place. They're not just in a cycle with you or me. They have mini cycles going on, in the background with different people. But sometimes, like let's say they have a laundrette and there's a lot of machines working at the same time. Now they may have their biggest machine and that's their primary supply, but all the other little ones are chugging along. So just let's say that they have a major breakdown in their laundry and there's only 1 or 2 machines working. They really need to get themselves back up and running and regulate themselves. And that's when they come back to you, to Hoover. They want to re-establish their sense of power and control and to validate their false mask. So basically, their false mask is a bit shaky at the moment. Things haven't gone well for them and they're feeling vulnerable. And narcissists they cannot feel vulnerable. It's like sticking a knife in them. It's a near death to them. They have to be in control and feeling the power. They will use the Hoover to re-establish their false mask again. They'll also Hoover to regain supply, just for supply, just if they're not getting enough. They have maybe all their cycles in order, but the cycles aren't producing enough supply for them. That's another reason that they'll Hoover. They'll also Hoover then if maybe their relationship with the new supply or supplies hasn't gone too well and they're focusing on another supply, but they want to feel a bit of a confidence boost because they're feeling a bit shaky, which is kind of in line with the first point. They may come back to you as a kind of a transitionary supply so that you can give them a bit of a boost so that they will appear very confident in their hunting down of the next new supply. However, I do usually find that the transitionary supply is usually the person they've had children with, because they know that person always has to be there and they kind of establish a mutually symbiotic relationship with the mama or the dada of the children and use them as a prop, a confidence prop. So if you're not in that position with them, the transitionary supply may not, the transitionary Hoover supply may not apply to you, but it is just one reason they Hoover. The other reason they Hoover is basically they have invested a lot of time in us and they do not like to not capitalize on their investments. Once they've invested their precious time in an investment prospect, you and me, they don't just want to give up on that without a return. Now, if they've discarded us, or we've discarded them, but mainly if they've discarded us, they haven't just left us so that they'll never return. They own us. We are their investment. And they will want to check out how their investment is doing. They'll want to check out, are we still on the hook or have we managed to wriggle free? They definitely don't want that because then they're not going to be able to capitalize and gain more supply from us and make a bit of profit on us and maybe come back to us whatever they left behind and didn't manage to extract from us. Or maybe we've actually made more supply for them. We've recovered and done well. So they want to just check on their investment. That's another reason. So I think the 5th reason I have down, which kind of ties up with that one, is to see if we're doing better And maybe we've, improved our lives or improved our situation in our lives. And the way the narcissist goes is, look, they're weighing things up all the time. So when they were with us, they were on the lookout to see if they could do any better with somebody else. And when they discarded us, or started to give us such a hard time that we discarded them, they thought that they'd spotted something better that was going to improve their lives, give them more supply, more money, bigger house, contacts, blah, blah, status, whatever. So they left us for the greener grass to jump onto the next prospect. But remember, they're reckless and they don't make good decisions. So oftentimes the new prospect either doesn't have what they think they have, or is another narcissist, or just cuts them dead. It doesn't always work out for them. In fact, it rarely works out for them because they never take the time to build foundations with the other person or work on themselves. So oftentimes they leave good, grade A, perfect supply because they think the grass is greener on the other side. So what they have to do all the time is assess their position because they can't run out of supply. And they always want more and more and more and to do better, and no one's ever good enough for them. So they check up on their old supply to see, now has the old supply begun to do better, and should they hop back to us? They don't want to miss out, and they certainly don't want anybody else to come in and partake of their investment because they have papers on us, they own us. Another horrible part of why they Hoover is, or purpose of the Hoover, is to check up on us in relation to how much the discard has affected us, and to kind of get a bit of pleasure out of that because it tops up their control supply and their power supply, to see how it's affected us and how much have we recovered, and if we haven't recovered at all, they actually get a feeling of power and control, that they mattered so much that we're still on the ground and still in pain, and it props them up a bit on their journey. So that can be a little check-in Hoover, just popping in to look in through our window just to see, how are we doing in there? Are we okay? So they're really they're checking to see how we are and what we can actually give them. Can we give them a bit of juicy supply from them still seeing us in pain? Or can they feel satisfied that we're doing quite well, and when we're cooked they'll come back for us maybe to nibble on us again? Or if they have to put measures in, if we seem to be escaping and doing better than them, would they maybe want to come back to us? So it's really to assess us, to assess where we're at in relation to what we can do for them. Another reason they would like to Hoover is so they can leverage us against, maybe they want to do a little bit of spicy triangulation, and they can leverage us against their new supply and maybe say they've been in contact with us again, or that we're still interested in them. Just for if they're bored and they just want a bit of excitement, they want to they think they have us in a prison, and they want to kind of come up with their stick and poke through the railings to see if they can get a bit of fun out of us, to see if they poke us, how we'll react, really. Then they can also be having a really, really hard time, be really low on supply. Things haven't worked out for them. And honestly, guys, 3/4 of the time, they're actually on the ground after they've left us because they've made big mistakes. They've jumped into situations they should never get into. They've perceived the grass as being greener on the other side. They have totally devalued us in their minds even. They don't see how great life was with us and how much they got from us, So they make awful decisions, terrible decisions. And they're also, even though we put them up on this pedestal sometimes as being the narcissist, and how strong they are and all the things they know about us and all the manipulations they have, they're also really gullible. They're really gullible at different times. Remember, if someone praises them and adores them and offers them things, they're like little kids. They're like little kids being offered candy bars, and then they eat too much candy and they get sick and they run back to mama because they're not feeling well. So that would be another reason for the Hoover. They've eaten too much candy and they want to come back to mama or dada. So they can see you as the cure again, as Dave in Narcology Unscripted has recently been saying. The narcissists go around and they see us as a cure or a salve to all their issues and problems, a saviour who's going to prop them up again, look after them and set them off on course again for the amazing lives that they deserve and are entitled to. And that's in inverted commas, guys. A bit of sarcasm thrown in there. Then another purpose of the Hoover is if the new supply has given them a major narcissistic injury, knowingly or unknowingly, they'll come back for triage. They'll come back for us to bandage them up and look after them and tell them we're so glad to have them back. And yeah, we were the ones that were going to look after them, and you're so amazing, and no one should do that to you. No one should hurt you like that. They basically want to come back and be admired, be looked after, and for us to take side against the new supply, who was, in inverted commas again, and a little bit of sarcasm thrown in, guys, the new supply who's so awful. So a bit of triangulation for us with the new supply. It's another purpose of the Hoover. And again, they'll come back for unconditional love. Narcissists love unconditional love. Only it has to be unconditional on our side. They don't do unconditional love. So it's just the way they see life, guys. It's so sad sometimes. And I know I'm being funny, and sarcastic. It's so sad that they have this way of thinking. And there's so no hope. They do things like come back and hoover people and want to re-engage after the desperate, awful things that they've done. It's very childlike, and sometimes it does make you feel compassionate towards them. But the only thing is you can't afford to do that, because once you do that and once you show compassion, they destroy you again and they get into your mind, and it's a terrible place to be. So we have to always remember that they're also cold and very self-orientated and self-focused, and people are not people to them. They have a very either low empathy level or no empathy. So we are just objects. So it's up to us to protect ourselves. They're not going to worry about how any of their actions affect us. So I hope those reasons that they hoover and the purposes of the Hoover video has helped. The next video in the series, number 3, is going to be the types of Hoover, the experience of the Hoover, like what it actually feels like. And I'm going to cover 2 main approaches in how they Hoover. So what actually goes on within the Hoover, how they approach it from 2 different angles, and how the Hoover can make you feel and how it can affect you. So I think at that stage after 3, I'll probably have covered the main parts of what I want to cover in the Hoover, and following on from that, I'm going to try and cover the discard as best I can. Please, again, there is another video coming, so if there's any questions you'd like me to answer in relation to the Hoover or your particular circumstance, I will also try and cover it in the next video. Thanks, guys, for your continued support. It means the world to me. It really helps. It's really encouraging. And it's also helping and part of my healing journey, which I feel will be ongoing for a lifetime in relation to always being healthy and always maintaining a strong structure within ourselves. Best of luck, guys. Have a blessed day and see you soon. Thanks. Bye.